You deserve to feel strong in your body. You deserve to feel powerful. You deserve to feel capable and resilient. You deserve to feel like the amazing, strong, badass you already are, just by virtue of navigating everything life has thrown at you so far.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something that it might feel a bit uncomfortable, but honestly, it's absolutely essential if you're navigating life after 40.
Yeah, we're talking about reclaiming a sense of power in your body. And, well, it really starts with confronting some of the advice we've all heard, advice that, frankly, might not be serving us anymore.
You know that feeling, I think a lot of us do, where you feel like you're doing everything right. You know, getting your steps, maybe some yoga, eating salad.
All the things we're told to do.
Exactly. And yet you still feel, I don't know, sluggish, a bit softer, maybe like your body just isn't quite yours in the same way, like you're pushing against something, but you can't quite pin it down.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly frustrating because the common advice is often, well, just do more cardio, stretch more, walk more, eat less. Basically, the message is often to shrink, to become less physically.
Right. This idea of doing less, being less, it's everywhere.
And look, things like walking, yoga, healthy eating, they're absolutely valuable. They're important pieces of the puzzle.
But they're missing something fundamental, aren't they? Something biological that really kicks in for women, especially after 40.
That's the core of it. The missing piece is this quiet, almost invisible reality. We start losing muscle mass year after year. And the solution, the really powerful counterforce to this, it's not just another fitness trend.
You mean strength training?
Exactly. When you actually dig into the science, strength training stops looking like a nice to have and starts looking like, well, literal scientific survival.
Survival, that's a strong word.
It is, but when you look at the research, and we've pulled from places like Harvard Medical School, the National Institute on Aging, tons of peer-reviewed studies, it really fits. It explains why this matters so much.
So this deep dive, we're going to unpack that data, right, and understand what's actually happening biologically.
Yes, and crucially, show you how you can push back, not just against feeling physically weaker, but against that whole narrative that kind of tells women over 40 to, well, fade away a bit.
We've gathered sources that really paint a clear picture. They show the challenge, definitely. But also, and this is the exciting part, they highlight these incredibly empowering solutions. Solutions that are available no matter where you're starting from.
Yeah, that's key. It's not about being an athlete already.
And before we jump into all the science and stats, let's ground this in something real, a story that I think really hits home for a lot of people. It cuts right to the heart of this issue.
Sometimes it's those small, totally unexpected moments, isn't it? The ones that suddenly show you something big has shifted inside.
It really is. So a few years back, I was talking to my friend Sarah. She was 43, super capable, successful career, mom of 2. And get this, she used to play college volleyball. You'd think strength was just baked into her identity, right?
Yeah, you'd assume someone with that background would always feel pretty strong, pretty resilient.
That's what I thought too. But she called me one day. She was actually crying. I immediately thought, oh my gosh, something terrible happened.
Of course.
And then she tells me she couldn't open a jar of pickles.
Ugh, the pickle jar moment. It sounds so small, almost trivial, right? But gosh, it carries so much weight for people.
It really does. And okay, sure, we've all struggled with a stubborn lid now and then. But for Sarah, it wasn't just about the jar. It was this sudden, like, punch into the gut realization.
That something fundamental had changed.
Exactly. That the physical strength she'd always just had, the strength that felt like part of who she was, it just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
She described this feeling of weakness, like her body was betraying her, like she was literally and kind of figuratively just disappearing a little bit.
Wow. That feeling of losing competence, that physical capacity sort of eroding away. It's a kind of quiet distress, isn't it? Something so many women feel but maybe don't talk about much because it feels, I don't know, embarrassing or like complaining.
Totally. And Sarah's story, it resonates because it's not unique. It's not some dramatic, isolated incident. It's the reality for so many women over 40 who start feeling this gradual erosion of strength, often without really understanding why.
And that feeling, it affects everything, doesn't it? Your energy, your confidence, your sense of independence, what you feel capable of doing. both right now and what you imagine for your future.
Absolutely. So this deep dive is really for Sarah and for everyone listening who's felt that frustration, that sense of fighting your own body. We're going to lay out the science, explain exactly what's happening, why it matters so much.
And then importantly, present the really strong evidence showing how you can genuinely turn this around, how you can reverse it.
Okay, let's dive into that science then. The stuff that maybe doesn't come up in casual conversation or even in a quick doctor's visit.
Right. So the key term here, the scientific term, is sarcopenia, Sarcopenia. It basically just means the age-related involuntary loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength.
Okay, age-related. But what often surprises people is how early it starts. Right? It's not something that waits until you're like 70.
Not at all. The research is really clear on this. It generally starts around age 30.
30? Wow.
Yeah. And it's gradual, but it's persistent. It just keeps happening decade after decade if you don't do anything specific to counteract it. When you look at the data from really reputable sources like Harvard Medical School, the National Institute on Aging, the numbers are pretty stark.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
Well, from age 30 onwards, the estimate is you can lose between 3 to 5% of your muscle mass per decade.
Per decade, okay.
And some studies actually suggest it could be even higher, maybe up to 8% per decade for some individuals.
Oh, okay, let's just pause on that. That compounds, doesn't it? If you lose, say, 5% in your 30s, then another 5% or more in your 40s.
Exactly. It adds up. So by the time you're 50, if you haven't been actively working against it, you could potentially have 10, maybe even 16% less muscle mass than you had in your late 20s or early 30s. By 60, that could be, 15 to 24% reduction? It's significant.
And that's assuming you weren't actively trying to build muscle before.
Right. And here's the crucial part specifically for women. This rate of loss often accelerates significantly during perimenopause and menopause.
Ah, the hormonal shifts.
Precisely. The decline in key hormones, especially estrogen, plays a really big role in how our bodies maintain muscle and regulate metabolism. So that process can speed up noticeably during those years.
Okay, so if you're listening and you're in your 40s, 50s, maybe beyond, and you've been feeling that sense of, I don't know, getting softer, even if the scale hasn't changed much.
Yeah, or noticing clothes fit differently, maybe looser on the arms or legs, but tighter around the middle.
Or finding things like carrying the groceries up the stairs or even just getting up off the sofa feels noticeably harder than it used to.
And then you are absolutely not imagining it.
It's real.
It's completely real. Your lived experience is absolutely backed up by the science. It's not just some vague idea of getting older. It's this measurable biological process, sarcopenia, happening and potentially speeding up because of hormonal changes. That physiological shift is directly what leads to feeling weaker or softer.
And this loss of muscle, it's not just about how strong you feel lifting things, is it? It creates this domino effect. It impacts so much more.
Oh, completely. It's fascinating, really, how deeply interconnected our physical strength is with our overall health. When you lose muscle, it triggers this whole cascade of other changes in your body, changes that definitely contribute to that feeling of your body kind of working against you.
Okay, so what's the first big domino to fall? You mentioned metabolism earlier.
Yes, metabolism is a huge one, absolute crucial. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. That means it burns calories all the time, even when you're just sitting on the couch watching TV or sleeping.
Like background burning.
Exactly. Think of muscle as high maintenance tissue compared to fat tissue, which is much less metabolically demanding. So as you lose that active muscle mass and maybe gain a bit of fat mass, which is a common pattern as metabolism naturally slows a bit anyway, your resting metabolic rate goes down.
Your RMR. The calories you burn just existing.
Precisely. It declines. So your body literally needs fewer calories just to maintain itself.
Ah, okay. So that's why so many women find they start gaining weight more easily or find it way harder to lose weight in their 40s and 50s, even if they swear they haven't changed how they eat.
That's a primary driver. Their metabolic engine is effectively running at a lower speed than it used to.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, of course, the most obvious one, just feeling less energetic, less strong functionally.
Yeah, the direct, tangible result. Feeling weaker, often feeling more tired. Those everyday tasks that used to be completely effortless, they start requiring noticeable effort.
Like we said, carrying groceries, opening jars.
Lifting kids or grandkids, standing for long periods, going up flights of stairs, even just pushing yourself up from a low chair sometimes, these things become harder. And that little bit of extra strain, day after day, It compounds. It starts to limit what you feel comfortable doing, what you can do.
And you touched on confidence earlier, too. How does that link in?
Well, think about it. How does feeling physically less capable affect how you see yourself, how you move through the world? When your body feels less reliable, less strong, it can really erode your confidence.
You might start avoiding things.
Exactly. Maybe unconsciously at first. You might shy away from physical challenges, feel a bit less adventurous. Maybe you even start to subtly change your posture, kind of hunching over a bit, compensating for perceived weakness.
It's that feeling we mentioned of starting to shrink. Not just physically, but maybe shrinking your life, your ambitions, the space you feel entitled to take up.
Feeling less visible, less powerful. And that feeling, that sense of shrinking or becoming less capable, it often creates this really unhelpful negative feedback loop, right?
How so?
You feel weaker, so you avoid activities that challenge your muscles. Avoiding those activities leads to more muscle loss over time, which in turn makes you feel even weaker, and so on.
It spirals downwards.
It can, yeah. And this is the really, really empowering part. This is what the research makes so incredibly clear. This slide into sarcopenia, this loss of muscle and strength and all its effects, it is not inevitable. It's not a life sentence.
Okay, so what does the science say we can do?
What's absolutely fascinating and just so consistent across all the scientific literature, the talking National Institute on Aging, Harvard, countless studies, is the strong consensus that this age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, it is largely preventable.
Preventable. Okay, that's good news.
But here's the real game changer. It's also largely reversible.
Reversible, you mean you can actually build back muscle you've lost, even later in life?
Yes, absolutely. Through consistent resistance training, strength training, the body retains this remarkable capacity to build new muscle tissue and increase strength. Even in your 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s and beyond. It can literally reverse the process of muscle loss that might have been happening for years.
Wow, okay. That feels huge. That's real power.
It is. That's the power we have available to us.
So let's get into the how then. What's actually happening in the body when you, say, lift a weight or do a push-up? When you challenge your muscles?
Okay, so when you apply resistance to a muscle, whether it's your own body weight, a resistance band, dumbbells, a machine, whatever, you create these tiny microscopic tears or damage in the muscle fibers.
Damage. That sounds bad.
It sounds bad, but it's actually a good thing. It's the signal. Your body interprets this stress, this microdamage, as a signal that says, hey, this load was challenging. I need to adapt so I can handle it better next time.
Ah, okay. Like a request for an upgrade.
Exactly. So during the recovery period after you train, your body gets to work repairing those muscle fibers and doesn't just repair them back to baseline, it makes them slightly thicker, slightly stronger. And if you do this consistently over time, your body also increases the overall amount of muscle tissue you have, more fibers, stronger fibers.
Got it. So you're literally building stronger, more capable muscles.
Precisely. And the benefits of doing this, they just radiate outwards. They impact practically every system in your body. It goes so far beyond just looking toned, although that can happen too.
Okay, let's break those benefits down. We talked metabolism already, but let's revisit that because it's such a big concern for women after 40.
Right. So by building or even just maintaining your muscle mass through strength training, you directly counteract that metabolic slowdown. You increase your resting metabolic rate. More muscle means you're burning more calories around the clock, even when you're asleep.
And there was a specific stat about this, wasn't there? Something tangible.
Yes, there was. It suggested that adding just 3 pounds of muscle tissue, which is achievable for most people starting out, can increase your daily calorie burn just at rest by approximately 6 to 7%.
3 pounds of muscle, 6–7% higher burn. That might not sound like a massive number day to day.
But it adds up week after week, month after month. That creates a significant difference in your overall energy balance. It makes managing your weight feel less like an uphill battle, often without needing drastic calorie cuts.
Okay, huge benefit. What about bone density? This feels critical, especially with hormonal changes impacting bone health for women.
This is arguably one of the most compelling reasons for women over 40, and especially post-menopause, to prioritize strength training. Osteoporosis, bone thinning, is a major health risk, leading to fractures.
And we hear a lot about calcium and vitamin D for bones.
And they are important, absolutely. They help support bone maintenance. But strength training does something different. It actively promotes bone formation.
How did it do that?
When your muscles contract and pull on your bones during resistance exercises, think squats, lunges, lifting weights, it puts mechanical stress on the bone. That stress is a signal to your bone cells called osteoblasts to wake up and lay down new bone tissue. It makes your bones denser and stronger.
So it's not just slowing down bone loss, it's actively building new bone.
Exactly. It is your most powerful proactive defense against bone loss and the risk of debilitating fractures later in life. It's incredible.
Wow, okay. What else? Does strength training affect hormones beyond just the estrogen connection?
It seems to, yes. One really significant benefit is improving insulin sensitivity. This is vital. Better insulin sensitivity means your body manages blood sugar more effectively, which dramatically reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
It's huge, given how common insulin resistance becomes.
It is. And beyond that, studies suggest strength training can positively influence sleep quality, which is another common issue during midlife, and also contribute to better mood regulation. It impacts your overall mental and physical resilience.
And let's bring it back to everyday life. Functional strength.
This is where the science gets really practical really quickly. Functional strength is simply about improving your ability to do, well, life.
Like carrying your own suitcase when you travel.
Yes. Or lifting heavy bags of groceries without worrying about your back. Playing actively with your kids or grandkids without getting exhausted or injured. Being able to move furniture around if you want to rearrange your room. Navigating stairs, hills, uneven ground confidently.
It gives you freedom, basically.
That's exactly it. Freedom. The freedom to live your life fully without feeling like physical limitations are holding you back or dictating what you can and can't do.
Okay, and this next one, this really caught my attention in the research. The mental health benefits.
Isn't it fascinating? The link between getting physically stronger and feeling mentally better is becoming undeniable. It's incredibly powerful. There are studies, good studies, showing that regular strength training can be as effective as traditional treatments, like antidepressant medication, for people experiencing mild to moderate depression.
As effective as antidepressants. That's stunning. Why? What's the connection?
It's likely a combination of things. There's the physiological aspect, of course, the endorphin release during exercise, changes in brain chemistry. But I think a huge part of it is psychological.
How so?
Well, think about the process of strength training. You see tangible, measurable progress. Week after week, you might lift a slightly heavier weight or manage one more repetition. You achieve these small wins consistently.
That must feel good.
It feels great. It builds this profound sense of accomplishment, of self-efficacy. You are literally proving to yourself over and over that you can do hard things, that your body isn't just declining, it's capable of adapting and getting stronger. That fundamentally changes your internal narrative about what you're capable of, not just physically, but mentally too.
It's like building physical resilience helps you feel more mentally resilient.
Exactly. You build physical strength, and somehow that translates directly into feeling mentally tougher, more confident, more capable overall.
Okay, that is a seriously compelling case for strength training.
Okay.
But I know what happens next for a lot of women listening. The buts start creeping in, the concerns, the myths, especially if this is all new territory.
Absolutely. And it's so important we address those directly because they are real barriers for people. They stop people from starting.
Okay, let's tackle the big one first. The classic myth, won't I get bulky?
Right. Let's just bust this one wide open, firmly but kindly. For the vast, vast majority of women, getting bulky from typical strength training is physiologically extremely difficult. It's just not going to happen unintentionally.
Why not? What's the science behind that?
It primarily comes down to hormones, specifically testosterone. Women naturally have significantly lower levels of testosterone than men, and testosterone is the primary hormone responsible for large increases in muscle size or hypertrophy.
So women just don't have the hormonal environment for that kind of massive muscle growth.
Generally, no. Achieving that bodybuilder look usually requires years of very specific, high-volume, intense training combined with a very carefully controlled diet, often a significant calorie surplus, and frankly, often a genetic predisposition towards building muscle easily. The average woman lifting weights 2 or 3 times a week just isn't going to accidentally wake up looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, so if you don't get bulky, what does happen? What kind of changes can women expect?
You'll build lean muscle. You'll likely notice more definition, more shape. Muscles give you curves, that look of being toned and strong. You'll feel more solid, more powerful, more capable in your own skin. And honestly, that feeling of strength and competence is so much more valuable and transformative than worrying about some mythical, unwanted bulk.
Okay, myth thoroughly busted.
Yeah.
Next common concern. I'm 45, or I'm 55, or I'm 68, and I've never lifted weights before. Is it too late? Have I missed the boat?
Oh, this one gets me fired up because the answer is just such a resounding, emphatic no. It is absolutely, positively never too late to start strength training.
Never too late, really, even in your 60s or 70s.
Yes. We see incredible transformations, improvements in strength, mobility, balance, overall quality of life in women who pick up weights for the first time in their 60s, 70s, even their 80s. The body retains the amazing capacity to adapt and get stronger.
So the muscles and bones still respond.
They absolutely do. They remain responsive to the right kind of stimulus, regardless of your chronological age. It's like your body is just waiting for the signal. It wants to be strong. Starting later doesn't mean you can't make progress. In fact, sometimes the improvements feel even more dramatic because the starting point might be lower. The potential for positive change is huge at any age.
That's incredibly hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay, third big concern. What if I have bad knees? Or I have a tricky back? Or I have arthritis? Won't lifting weights just make it worse?
This is a really understandable worry, and it definitely highlights why it's important to start smart, maybe get some guidance. But it's a huge misconception that having existing joint pain or back issues automatically means you can't strength train. Often, the opposite is true.
Wait, strength training can actually help joint pain or back problems? That seems counterintuitive.
It does seem that way, but yes, when it's done correctly and progressively, think about it. Strengthening the muscles around a joint, like the quads and hamstrings around the knee, or the core muscles supporting the spine, provides better support and stability for that joint.
Like building scaffolding around it.
That's a great analogy. That muscular scaffolding takes pressure off the joint itself, which can significantly reduce pain. Similarly, strengthening your core, your glutes, your back muscles, that's one of the most effective long-term strategies for managing chronic low back pain, because you're addressing the underlying weakness that often contributes to the problem in the first place.
So the advice isn't necessarily avoid lifting if you have pain, but maybe lift smartly to reduce pain.
Exactly. Now, you absolutely should check in with your doctor or physical therapist first, especially if you have a specific diagnosis or acute injury. Get their guidance. But don't automatically assume you're disqualified. Weakness is very often the cause of pain, not a reason to avoid building strength. It just needs a thoughtful, careful approach, focusing on great form, starting light, and listening to your body. The goal isn't to push through sharp pain, it's to build the resilience that makes the pain go away.
Okay, that reframes it completely.
Yeah.
Build strength to reduce pain. All right, let's shift gears slightly. Supplements often come up in fitness conversations, but they can feel confusing or maybe like something only serious athletes need. The sources highlighted two that seem particularly relevant for women over 40. Creatine and protein.
Yes, and let's start with creatine because like you said, it definitely carries that stereotype, right? That it's just for like 20-year-old guys trying to bulk up in the gym.
Totally. Look, why would I, a woman in my 40s or 50s, need creatine? What's the relevance?
Well, this is where the research is getting really exciting and honestly catching up. The evidence strongly suggests that creatine might actually be one of the most beneficial and well-studied supplements out there, particularly for women as they age.
More beneficial than we thought.
Way more. We're talking thousands of studies over decades. It has an incredibly strong safety profile. It's one of the most researched supplements on the planet.
Okay, so what does it actually do in the body that helps us, especially for strength training?
So, at its most basic level, creatine helps your muscles produce energy more efficiently, specifically for short bursts of high-intensity effort. Think about lifting a heavy weight for, say, 5 repetitions, or sprinting up a flight of stairs, or pushing through that last tough set of squats. Creatine basically helps recycle the energy currency, ATP, in your muscles faster, allowing you to perform better during those powerful short-duration activities.
Okay, so it helps with the actual lifting part, maybe lets you get an extra rep or lift slightly heavier.
Exactly, and that leads to better strength gains over time. But the benefits for women over 40, based on recent research, go beyond just performance in the gym.
Oh, like what?
Well, studies are showing improved strength and power output, yes, but also potentially better muscle recovery, meaning maybe less soreness, faster bounce back between workouts, allowing you to train more consistently.
Okay, less soreness is always good.
Definitely. But here's where it gets really interesting and potentially huge for women navigating midlife. Enhanced brain function.
Wait, creatine for the brain.
Yes. Some compelling studies suggest creatine supplementation can improve cognitive performance, especially in areas like working memory, processing speed, and potentially reducing mental fatigue or that brain fog so many women report experiencing during perimenopause and menopause.
Wow. Brain fog relief from creatine.
Yeah.
That's genuinely surprising and, frankly, amazing if it holds up.
It is pretty remarkable. The brain is a very high energy organ, right? And creatine plays a role in energy availability there too, not just in muscles. Plus, there's also emerging research hinting at potential positive effects on bone health, especially when you combine creatine with resistance training.
So it's really supporting multiple systems, muscles, brain, possibly bones. It's way more than just a bulk-up supplement.
Absolutely. It supports energy for performance, muscle recovery, brain health, and maybe even bone health. And the dose is typically quite small, usually just 3 to 5 grams per day, often taken as a flavorless powder mixed in water or a smoothie. It's generally very well tolerated. But like with anything new, always a good idea to have a quick chat with your healthcare provider first.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, protein. Pretty bold claim about protein intake for women over 40.
The statement was essentially, most women over 40 are simply not eating enough protein to support their health and fitness goals, especially if they start strength training.
Not enough protein. Okay, that feels like a big statement. What's considered enough in this context?
Well, the standard recommended daily allowance, the RDA, for sedentary adults is around zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, so about 0.36 grams per pound.
Okay, that's the baseline.
Right. But for people who are actively resistance training, which is what we're encouraging, the protein requirements go up significantly. You need more protein to repair the muscle damage from training and actually build new tissue. The recommendations for strength training individuals generally range from 1.2 up to maybe 2.0 grams per kilogram of body weight.
Whoa, okay, let's translate that. For a woman who weighs, say, 65 kilos, which is about 143 pounds, 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilo is 78 to 130 grams of protein a day.
Exactly. And yes, that can sound like a lot, especially compared to the standard RDA. The phrase, feeling like you have to eat a small cow, it can feel like a huge shift if you're used to much lower protein intake.
It really can. So why is that higher amount so critical, especially as we get older? Does something change?
Yes, something important changes. It's a phenomenon sometimes called anabolic resistance. Basically, as we age, our bodies become a little less efficient at responding to the protein we eat.
Less efficient how?
The process of using dietary protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, the building and repairing of muscle tissue, just doesn't work quite as well as it did when we were younger. Think of it like the muscle building machinery in your body becomes slightly less sensitive to the signal from protein.
So you need a bigger signal, more protein, just to get the same muscle building response you might have gotten with less protein when you were, say, 25.
That's a great way to put it. You need a higher dose to achieve the same effect. Plus, getting enough protein is absolutely crucial for supporting the muscle recovery and growth stimulated by your strength workouts. It also helps maintain that higher metabolic rate we talked about, promotes feelings of fullness and satisfaction, which can really help with managing appetite and weight, and provides the essential building blocks for all sorts of tissue repair throughout your body.
Okay, so it's doing a lot of heavy lifting, pardon the pun.
Oh, exactly.
Where are the best places to get this higher amount of protein throughout the day?
High-quality options like lean meats, chicken, turkey, lean beef, fish and seafood, eggs, dairy products, especially things like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, which are protein powerhouses. For plant-based options, legumes like lentils, beans, chickpeas, edamame are great, as are tofu and tempeh. Nuts and seeds contribute too.
And what about protein powder? Is that helpful?
It can be incredibly helpful, yes. Protein powders, whey, casein, soy, pea, rice, etc. can be a really convenient and efficient way to boost your intake and help you hit those higher daily targets, especially maybe in a post-workout shake or added to oatmeal or smoothies. It's a tool to make it easier.
Okay, so creatine and adequate protein are like key partners supporting the actual strength training work.
They really are. They help create the optimal internal environment for your body to respond positively to the training stimulus, recover well, and build that valuable muscle.
All right, this is all fantastic practical information.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out again for a minute, because you mentioned earlier this isn't just about the physical stuff, the muscles, the metabolism, the supplements. There's a deeper mindset shift involved here too, isn't there?
Absolutely. This is where the physical journey really intersects with our psychology, our self-perception, and honestly, the broader cultural stories we're told about women and aging.
Yeah, this material talked about how often from a young age, women are subtly conditioned to shrink, to take up less space.
Think about it, right? Be quieter, eat less, weigh less. Don't be too loud, too demanding. Need less, want less. It's this pervasive pressure to minimize ourselves physically and emotionally.
And then we hit our 40s, 50s, 60s, a time when intellectually we often feel like we're really coming into our own right. We have experience, resilience, maybe more clarity about who we are and what matters.
We should be hitting our stride.
Exactly. But culturally, the expectation often shifts, doesn't it? It's like there's this whisper saying, okay, now's the time to start feeding gracefully. Become a bit less visible. Focus on others. Just be nice. Be grateful.
It's like being gently nudged towards the sidelines of your own life. And in that context, making the conscious choice to actively build physical strength, that becomes a really powerful act. It's an act of rebellion almost, an act of self-affirmation.
It's about reclaiming your power, isn't it? Looking at the science of sarcopenia and saying, nope, not happening to me, not yet. Maybe never. It's about proving to yourself, physically, tangibly, that you are not done. You are not declining. You are not becoming invisible.
And that feedback loop we talked about earlier, the one between physical strength and mental resilience, it becomes incredibly potent here. When you feel physically strong, when you know you can lift heavy things, push yourself, recover, it genuinely changes how you carry yourself in the world.
You stand taller.
Literally and figuratively, yes. You might find yourself speaking with more confidence, taking up more space without apologizing for it. It helps you challenge that inner critic, that voice that tells you to shrink, to apologize for existing, for having needs, for wanting to be seen and heard and powerful.
The material really called out that narrative, the
Yeah.
one that says women over 40 should just be content, be grateful, and certainly shouldn't want more, shouldn't want to feel sexy or powerful or strong or visible.
Yeah, I called that narrative garbage. And, well, it kind of is, isn't it?
It really is. It's so limiting.
It's a belief system often imposed from the outside that we can easily internalize. But the truth is, you can be a fantastic mother, a dedicated professional, a loving partner, an engaged community member, and still fiercely desire to feel amazing and strong in your own body. You can want to see what you're capable of achieving physically.
There's no conflict there.
None at all. There is absolutely no expiration date on feeling powerful. There's no age limit on wanting to be your best, strongest, most vibrant self. This mindset shift is really about giving yourself radical permission to want that and then to go after it without feeling guilty or apologizing for it.
And seeing other women do it, embracing that strength, is so motivating, which is why those real stories are so important.
Oh, absolutely. Some really beautiful, concrete examples.
Like Maria, the woman who started strength training at 47 after a divorce.
Yes. And she talked about drawing this direct parallel between the physical act of lifting heavy barbells and processing the heavy emotional weight she was carrying through the divorce. And now she's deadlifting 200 pounds. And that newfound physical and mental resilience gave her the courage to start her own business.
That connection is so clear in her story. And Jennifer, 52, who got an osteoporosis diagnosis.
Right, a diagnosis that often comes with advice like, be careful, don't lift anything heavy, don't fall. Very fear-based advice, often.
But she didn't listen to that part.
Well, she worked with a knowledgeable trainer, but instead of just being careful, she chose to lift weights progressively and safely. And the result...
It was dramatic, wasn't it?
Completely. Her bone density improved so significantly in just 2 years that her doctor was apparently stunned, asking her exactly what she'd been doing. She actively defied the limiting advice and gave real, measurable health improvements. That's powerful.
And Susan, 44, her story felt very relatable too. Doing all the right things, cardio, good diet, trying to sleep, but just feeling drained all the time.
That pervasive fatigue, it's incredibly common, even when you feel like you're checking all the conventional health boxes. But for Susan, just 6 months of adding consistent strength training into her routine made a huge difference. Her energy levels came back dramatically. It showed that maybe cardio alone wasn't addressing the underlying issue of muscle health and metabolic efficiency for her.
And then, of course, bringing full circle, my friend Sarah, the pickle jar moment.
Yes, her story is the perfect illustration of reversal. From that feeling of profound weakness and loss at 43 to now, at 46, confidently deadlifting twice her body weight. And more importantly, feeling like herself again, strong, capable, unstoppable.
And the key point about all these women
Is that they are not superhuman. They're not genetic anomalies or elite athletes. They are normal women who simply made a conscious choice. A choice to build strength instead of accepting decline. A choice to show up differently in their own lives.
And that same choice is available to every single person listening.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get super practical now. How does someone actually start? Because Hearing all this is inspiring, yes, but taking that first step into the world of weights or resistance bands can feel really intimidating if you've never done it before.
Totally understandable. That intimidation factor is real, and it's okay to feel it. But here's the great news. You don't need to suddenly become a powerlifter. You don't need to join a hardcore, grunting-filled gym tomorrow. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight.
What's the realistic starting point? You mentioned the National Institute on Aging recommendation.
Yes, and it could not be simpler or more encouraging. Their basic recommendation for adults, including older adults, for strength training is just 2 sessions per week.
2, that's it.
That's it, to start making a difference, 2 times a week. Not necessarily every day, not necessarily hour-long marathon sessions.
Okay, 2 sessions of maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes each.
Exactly. That feels doable, right?
Yeah.
Incredibly manageable for most people. And you can start with very little or even no equipment at all. Starting the first couple of weeks, just focusing on learning the basic movement patterns using your own body weight.
Like what kind of movements?
Think fundamental exercises like squats, maybe just squatting down to sit on a chair and standing back up at first. Push-ups, you can start doing them against a wall or on your knees. Lunges, maybe holding onto something for balance initially. And planks, holding your body in a straight line. The goal in those first weeks is just to get comfortable with the movements. Focus on your form.
Okay, body weight first, then what? Weeks 3 and 4.
Then you introduce just a little bit of resistance. This is where things like resistance bands come in. They're inexpensive and versatile. Or you could use very light dumbbells. Or even just household items like water bottles filled with water or sand, or sturdy tote bags filled with books or cans. The idea is just to start adding a little bit more challenge to those same basic movements.
Got it. And then weeks 5 through 8, the focus shifts to progressive overload.
Yes, and this is the absolute key principle for getting stronger over time. Progressive overload simply means that as an exercise starts to feel easier with a certain weight or resistance for a certain number of repetitions, you need to make it slightly harder the next time.
How do you do that?
You could increase the weight or resistance slightly. You could aim to do more repetitions with the same weight. You could slow down the movement to make it more challenging. You could decrease rest time between sets. There are lots of ways. But that consistent, gradual increase in challenge is what signals your body. Keep adapting, keep getting stronger.
And then from month 2 onwards, you just continue that process and maybe add more exercises.
Exactly. Continue progressing, maybe explore adding a few more exercises to work different muscle groups, perhaps follow a more structured beginner program you find online or from a trainer.
And focusing on those big compound movements is efficient, right? The ones that work multiple muscles at once.
Highly efficient. Squats are amazing for your entire lower body and core. Push-ups work your chest, shoulders, triceps, core. Rows, any kind of pulling motion, like with bands or dumbbells, are crucial for balancing out the pushing and improving posture, working your back and biceps. Lunges are fantastic for single leg strength and balance. Planks build incredible core stability.
And the deadlift, you mentioned that earlier. When does that come in?
The deadlift is often called the king of exercises, and for good reason. It works practically everything from your hamstrings and glutes all the way up your back. It builds tremendous functional strength for picking things up off the floor safely, but it's one you definitely want to approach carefully, ideally learning the form with very lightweight, or even just a PVC pipe first, maybe getting some coaching. When you're ready, though, it's incredibly rewarding.
But regardless of the exercise, before adding serious weight, what's the absolute #1 rule?
Form overweight. Always.
Yeah.
Every single time. Non-negotiable.
Why is that so critical?
Because executing an exercise with proper technique, even with a lighter weight, is vastly more effective at actually working the muscles you intend to work. And, crucially, it's infinitely safer. Trying to lift a weight that's too heavy, using sloppy form, is the quickest way to get injured, which then sets you back completely. It's much better to master the movement pattern first, then gradually add weight. Take the time to watch good tutorial videos, maybe film yourself, or even invest in a session or two with a qualified coach just to learn the basics correctly. It's worth it.
Okay, form first. Got it. Now, even with this clear path laid out, those sneaky excuses, they're going to pop up, aren't they? Let's be real. We probably all use some of them at some point.
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly common, and it really helps to just name them and look at them rationally. It's totally natural to feel some resistance or feel overwhelmed when you're starting something new that pushes you outside your comfort zone.
Okay, excuse #1, I just don't have time.
Right. As we just established, the starting recommendation is just 2 sessions a week. Maybe 20, 30 minutes each. That's what, 40 to 60 minutes total out of your entire week. Let's be really honest with ourselves. Where could those 40 or 60 minutes come from? Could you carve it out by scrolling social media a little less, watching one less episode of a show? It's not about finding huge chunks of time. It's about slightly shifting priorities to make this small but powerful investment in your future health and well-being.
Okay, fair point. Excuse number 2. I can't afford a gym membership. Or I don't have money for fancy equipment.
And the great news is you absolutely do not need a gym membership or expensive gear to get started and make significant progress. Bodyweight exercises, squats, lunges, push-ups, planks are incredibly effective and cost nothing. A set of resistance bands, which adds tons of options, usually costs less than going out for dinner once. There are literally thousands of high-quality free workout videos on platforms like YouTube designed for beginners using minimal equipment. You can build a strong foundation right in your living room. Lack of funds is not a valid barrier to starting.
Okay, barrier removed. Excuse number 3. I'm too out of shape, or I'm too overweight, or I'm too weak to even start.
This one always makes me think of the saying. That's like saying you're too dirty to take a shower. You start exactly where you are today, with the body you have right now. If a full body weight squat feels impossible, you squat down to a sturdy chair and stand up. If a push-up on your knees is too hard, you do push-ups standing up against a wall. If you can only do one lunge, you do one lunge. Every single person who is strong today started somewhere. You are not starting from zero. You have a body that can move. You just start with what you can do no matter how small it feels.
Start where you are. Okay. Excuse number 4. I'm intimidated by the gym environment, all the machines, the mirrors, the super fit people.
This is a very real and valid feeling for so many people, especially women. Gyms can feel overwhelming. So if a traditional gym environment feels like too much right now, don't go. Start at home where you feel comfortable. Or look for smaller, local fitness studios that might have a more welcoming vibe. Some areas have women-only gyms or specific classes geared towards beginners. You could also try going during off-peak hours when gyms are typically much quieter. Bringing a friend along can also make a huge difference. But honestly, that feeling of intimidation fades really quickly once you start focusing on your own workout and realize that most other people are just doing their own thing, not watching you.
Good perspective. Okay, excuse number 5. What if I hurt myself?
A legitimate concern, but let's flip it. Statistically speaking, you are far more likely to experience aches, pains, strains, and injuries in your everyday life because you lack strength lifting groceries improperly, twisting your back, falling due to poor balance, than you are to get hurt from engaging in a well-structured, progressive strength training program.
So strength training actually makes you less likely to get hurt overall.
Yes. Done correctly, it builds more resilient muscles, stronger connective tissues, denser bones, and better movement patterns, all of which protect you from injury in the long run. The key, again, is starting slowly, prioritizing excellent form above all else, progressing gradually, and really listening to your body's signals. If something feels genuinely sharp or wrong, you stop or modify. You don't push through that kind of pain.
Makes sense. And the final common excuse. I just don't know what I'm doing. Feeling clueless.
And guess what? None of us knew what we were doing when we first started. Nobody is born knowing how to squat correctly or use a resistance band, but the knowledge is so readily available now. Like we said, YouTube is overflowing with tutorials. There are countless beginner-friendly workout apps and books. You could hire a qualified trainer, even just for 1 or 2 sessions, specifically to teach you the foundational movements. The process of learning by doing is actually really empowering in itself. You don't need to have a PhD in exercise science before you do your first push-up against the wall. You just need to be willing to start learning.
So really, when you break them down, those common barriers, they're not insurmountable walls, are they? They're more like hurdles you can learn to step over. They're often just the stories we tell ourselves to stay in our comfort zone.
Exactly. And real growth, real transformation almost always happens just outside that zone.
And maybe putting this whole conversation into the biggest possible picture helps too. Thinking long term. If you're, say, 40 or 45 right now, realistically, you could easily have another 40, 50, maybe even 60 years of life ahead of you.
That's potentially a whole second adult lifetime stretching out in front of you. It's a staggering amount of time.
So the question becomes, how do you want to live those decades? Do you want to spend them feeling strong, energetic, capable, independent, ready for travel and adventure and new experiences?
Or do you want to spend them feeling increasingly limited, managing aches and pains, maybe feeling like you're in gradual decline, becoming more reliant on others, watching life happen more from the sidelines?
When you frame it like that, strength training stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a profound investment in your future self. It's about actively shaping the quality of those coming decades.
It's about being that 70-year-old, that 80-year-old, maybe even that 90-year-old who is still traveling, still gardening, still able to get down on the floor and play with great-grandchildren, still living life vibrantly and fully on her own terms.
There was that powerful idea of being the older woman who, when her worried adult children start hinting about maybe needing more help or moving somewhere with support, she can just go into her garage gym and deadlift something heavy, basically showing them, don't worry about me, I've got this.
I love that image. It's about maintaining that physical competence and independence for as long as absolutely possible. And this isn't just about your own individual journey either. As we touched on, every single time a woman over 40 makes the choice to prioritize her strength, to show up and lift weights, to take up space in the gym or her living room, she's doing something bigger.
She's changing the narrative.
Subtly but powerfully, yes. She's showing other women, her friends, her colleagues, her sisters, what's possible. She's showing her daughters, her nieces, her granddaughters that strength is beautiful, that it's valuable, that it's achievable at any age. She becomes this living, breathing example that decline is not inevitable. She's taking up space without apology, and just by doing that, she's giving other women permission to do the same.
Okay, so after hearing all of this, the compelling science, the incredible benefits, the inspiring stories, the debunked excuses, what's the immediate takeaway? What's the call to action? What should someone listening do right now, today?
Don't let this just be interesting information that washes over you. Take one small, concrete step, make it real.
Okay, first action.
If you can, just stand up. Right now, wherever you are listening, stand up tall, feel your feet connecting with the ground, feel the muscles in your legs and your core engaging just to hold you upright. Take a second to acknowledge the inherent strength that is already within you right now. This body is capable. This is your starting point.
Okay, stand up, feel your strength, second action.
Commit to doing just one small thing today. Not a massive overhaul, just one tiny step towards building strength. What could that be? Maybe it's doing 10 body weight squats right now while this is fresh in your mind. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes searching YouTube for a beginner body weight workout for women over 40. Maybe it's making a note to research creatine or calculate roughly how much protein you ate yesterday. Maybe it's actually ordering a set of resistance bands online. Just pick one thing, one tangible action.
One thing, manageable. Third action.
Tell someone. Share your intention. It could be a friend, your partner, a family member, even just posting in a supportive online group. Say it out loud or type it out. I'm going to start prioritizing my strength. Or I did 10 squats today. Saying it makes it more real. It creates a little bit of gentle accountability.
Speak it into existence. And the fourth action.
This one might be the most important, and it's internal. Give yourself permission. Full permission. Permission to want more for your body and your health. Permission to take up space, physically and metaphorically. Permission to refuse to shrink. Permission to genuinely believe, deep down, that your strongest, most capable, most vibrant days are not behind you, but can actually still be ahead of you. You are absolutely worthy of this effort. You deserve to feel strong.
You know, reflecting on everything we've discussed, pulling together all these sources for this deep dive, the thing that really strikes me, the consistent thread, is that powerful connection between the physical act of strength training and this almost surprising outcome of becoming mentally tougher, more confident, more willing to take chances in other parts of your life.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like this almost alchemical process.
Right.
How does making your biceps or your glutes physically stronger translate into having more courage to ask for a raise or set a boundary in a relationship or start a new project? Why does that happen?
Maybe it really is about defying those expectations we talked about. That quiet cultural narrative telling women our age to kind of fade. And every time you go and lift something heavy, every time you complete a workout you didn't think you could, you're giving yourself this concrete, undeniable proof that you can do hard things.
You're proving that you're capable of getting stronger when maybe the world or even a part of yourself expects you to be getting weaker.
Yeah. And maybe pushing back against that physical expectation just naturally translates into feeling more empowered to push back against other limiting beliefs or situations in your life.
It builds this deep embodied confidence. It's not just an idea in your head. You feel it in your muscles, in your posture, and how you move. You gain this fundamental knowledge of your own capability that's hard to shake.
And I want to speak directly for a second to the woman listening right now who might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but you don't understand my situation. My body has real issues. My schedule is insane. My life is just too complicated for this.
We hear you. Life is complex. Bodies can be incredibly complex. Circumstances can be genuinely challenging, no doubt about it. Your feelings are completely valid.
But
But underneath all of that valid complexity, there is still a simple, fundamental truth. You deserve to feel strong in your body. You deserve to feel powerful. You deserve to feel capable and resilient. You deserve to feel like the amazing, strong, badass you already are, just by virtue of navigating everything life has thrown at you so far.
your body has carried you through so much already.
It really has. And maybe now is the time to show it some profound appreciation, some radical love by investing in making it stronger, more capable, and more resilient for all the adventures and challenges that are still to come.
Don't let anyone, not a doctor who might be unintentionally limiting, not subtle societal messages, and definitely not that nagging, doubting voice inside your own head tell you that your best, strongest days are behind you.
They are not. They are absolutely waiting for you. In many ways, they might just be beginning.
So start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Go, get stronger.
That brings us to the end of this deep dive on reclaiming strength after 40. If this conversation sparks something in you, if you know another woman who needs to hear this message, maybe your sister, your mom, a friend, a colleague, please share this deep dive with her. We truly are stronger together in supporting each other.
And next week, we're diving into another really critical topic, especially relevant for women in this stage of life, hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. We'll explore the latest research, the potential benefits, the risks, the nuances, and maybe some things your doctor hasn't had time to discuss fully. It's going to be another important conversation.
Absolutely. So until then, your homework is simple, it's powerful.
Go lift something heavy, even if it's just your own body weight in a squat.
Your future self is definitely going to thank you. As always, please remember, this is all for educational and informational purposes. It's not medical advice. Always talk to your own healthcare provider before making any changes to your exercise routine or starting any new supplements.